Today's episode will be about my favorite show, Red Dwarf. And one of the better episodes, too, Polymorph. And one particular scene, to be specific. That scene is the scene where Rimmer's anger is taken out. The alphabety spaghetti scene. Now, although I love this scene, and, I'm glad that it's the way it is, when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. For those of you who don't know, Rimmer is a character on Red Dwarf that is a hologram. He is a hologrammatic character. He's nothing but light. Until Season 6, he's completely unable to, touch anything or have anything touch him. So when the polymorph in the show is trying to, because the polymorph is this creature that feeds off emotion, okay? And the way it does that, it has this, little tentacle mouth thing that comes out of its mouth, kind of like Alien, like the xenomorphs. Anyway, so when it's trying to get Rimmer's anger, it incites him by showing a scene where it forms into Rimmer's mom. The polymorph can change shape, hence the name. But, so it shapeshifts into Rimmer's mom and has sex with Lister, which is a character also in the show. The scene results in Rimmer getting very angry and the polymorph sticking its tentacle onto his head and draining out his anger. But again, with Rimmer being a hologram, how is this possible? It makes no sense. I mean, it's a funny scene and all, but when you think right about it, it makes absolutely no sense. The polymorph shouldn't have been able to touch Rimmer. Now, the only plausible theory you could come up with is perhaps Rimmer's light bee, which wasn't introduced yet in the series, but his light bee, which is this little projector that flies around inside of him that they introduced in Series 4. The only explanation really you can think of is that his light bee was conveniently right in his head where the polymorph hit. That's really the only way to explain it, but at the time, they hadn't come up with the concept of the light bee, and Rimmer was on board the ship, so therefore should have just been projected by the actual ship's projection system with the hologram projection suite. That being said, it is worth mentioning that in the Red Dwarf novel, Better Than Life, which is the second novel, they did the scene very differently. Instead of the polymorph turning into Rimmer's mom and draining it from his head, instead it goes up into the hologram projection suite and goes through his memories, showing all of the things to make him angry, and incites the anger there and drains it directly from the hologram projection suite. That way makes a lot more sense, but it's nowhere near as entertaining, so I'm glad the show did what it did there, but at the same time, it would have made more sense had they done something similar to the novel. Again, the show came before the novels. I assume that Doug Naylor was just, Rob Grant and Doug Naylor were just trying to kind of, make a little bit more sense of it with the novels. The novels, are a little bit more continuous than the series is because there's a ton of inconsistencies throughout Red Dwarf. But that being said, the alphabety spaghetti scene was one of the best scenes in the episode, so it's not something that I would change. On an unrelated note, from the same episode, I would also just like to mention another scene that's worth mentioning. It's not something that I'm going to overanalyze, it's just something I find funny. The clitoris scene, the one where he's like, the important thing is, what are we going to call ourselves? Then he says, it's either between the League Against Salivating Monsters or his personal contribution, the Committee for the Liberation and Integration of Terrifying Life Forms and Their Rehabilitation into Society. One drawback with that, the abbreviation is clitoris. I found that pretty funny. Another thing I'd like to mention is the remastered version of the episode is nowhere near as entertaining because they cut out the whole circumcision joke where the cat's talking about how a scalpel may have performed a certain popular Jewish operation. In the remastered version, they cut that out. That being said, this has been overanalyzing, and stay tuned for more Fugitive Red-Eye. As always, any ratings, comments, or suggestions are appreciated. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.